Hi, happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Distance, Atlanta Track Club's online hub of resources to support you in staying healthy and active while we continue to practice safe social distancing. My name is Alissa Palladino. I am a registered dietitian and runner based in Atlanta. Hi, Carol. And this is the sixth episode of what has become a weekly nutrition series in which we've been exploring a whole range of nutrition topics that are relevant to you as runners and walkers, and particularly focusing on healthy eating in the context of coronavirus. So for those of you who have been following along, thank you. And today we're actually going to be expanding on the topic of building balanced meals that we talked about in regards to breakfast and lunch in the two previous episodes. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're interested in catching up or learning more, all the nutrition videos live on the Atlanta Track Club's YouTube channel. And there you can also find a host of great resources by the Atlanta Track Club staff and other wellness experts and elite athletes. So some great resources there. We are living in a pretty crazy time. The coronavirus continues to impact our lives, and there are ongoing cancellations of really significant and iconic running events. And there's increasingly being a light shown on ongoing racial disparities and inequalities that continue to persist in our country. So in preparing for today's presentation, part of me was wondering, is it relevant to talk about nutrition right now? Is it helpful? Is it sensitive? And what I've got is that, no matter what else is going on around us, we all still need to eat. And our food choices are still choices. And they have the potential to impact and influence our energy levels, our mood, our workouts, our work, and our overall health. So I will continue to use this platform to share information about nutrition and hopefully make healthy eating feel accessible to all of you runners and walkers who are tuning in each week. Like I mentioned, today we're going to be expanding on the topic of balance. We talked about balanced breakfast and balanced lunches in the two previous episodes. So today we're going to expand that and talk about balanced dinners. And my hope is really to educate and empower you to create satisfying and nourishing meals for yourself, for your family, at home, and really understand that cooking at home doesn't have to be complicated. You don't even really need a recipe. This is an important thing now to really feel comfortable in your kitchen with some basic essential cooking skills. We have reduced dining out options, and even as restaurants are opening back up, it may be a while till we feel comfortable going back regularly. And regardless, there are so many benefits to cooking at home anytime, Corona and beyond. So research shows that it helps us make healthier choices. It leads to improved health outcomes, can definitely save money. And ultimately, we have more control over our ingredients, our preparation methods, and even our portion sizes when we're cooking for ourselves. So today, we are going to review what the components of a balanced meal are, and then kind of get into how to use the different tools in your kitchen so that you can turn those components into satisfying and nourishing meals for yourself and your family. To start, we're going to recap the components of a balanced meal. And remember, the reason we want to be eating balanced meals is because that's going to be the best way to optimize our energy levels and keep us satisfied and promote overall health. So we're going to want to have a protein source, a carbohydrate, a healthy fat, and then some vegetables, similar to lunch, which we talked about last week. So the protein is going to provide the building blocks for our muscles and our tissues. It's going to help us manage hunger and feel satisfied for longer. And it's going to help promote a healthy metabolism because it's going to support our lean muscles. So it's also going to play a really important role in exercise recovery for those of us who are staying active, and hopefully those of you tuning in are. The carbohydrates are going to be our essential energy source. So that's going to be the preferred fuel for our brains when we're working, and it's the preferred fuel for our muscles while we're exercising, including running, especially at higher intensities and for longer durations. Carbohydrates are also going to provide dietary fiber if we're going with whole grain versions and starchy vegetables, which that fiber is going to play a lot of important roles in our health, including managing cholesterol and blood sugar levels and promoting healthy digestion. The fat, our third macronutrient, is going to help increase satiety, so helping us feel more satisfied and fuller for longer. It's going to promote the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, and of course, it's going to make our food more delicious and sometimes add some texture. And then the final component, once we've got our protein, our carbs, and our fats, is to really add colorful vegetables to our dinner meals. The vegetables are going to be naturally high in fiber, high in water, packed with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that we need to support a healthy immune system, recover from exercise, and really help lower our risk for a whole host of diseases. So protein, carbs, fat, and vegetables. Now let's talk about how we actually take those components and create meals. And so I'm going to talk about a couple different preparation methods or cooking methods. The first is going to be grilling. Then we're going to talk about using the stovetop. We're going to talk about the crock pot, the microwave, and the oven. And then I'm going to do a demo of a one sheet pan meal, which is one of my favorite ways to use the oven and is a super simple way to make all the components of a balanced meal really delicious with very minimal cleanup. Okay, so the grill. It's summertime. Some of you may have access to an outdoor grill, in which case that's awesome. I hope you do, and I hope you use it. If you don't, or it's raining out, or you want to grill year round, you can use some sort of stovetop indoor grill. And this is, something you can purchase and you can keep in your kitchen and really do the same, have the same result as you would with an outdoor grill. Just with less sunshine. And I think grilling is a great preparation method because it adds a lot of flavor naturally without having to add a lot of fat or do really a complex marinade. So for your protein on the grill, burgers are a natural choice. With beef burgers, you'd probably want to look for a leaner cut, so that 93%, or go with a grass-fed beef, which is going to be lower in saturated fat and higher in those anti-inflammatory omega-3 fats. Chicken is also really great on the grill. That's usually my go-to. So lots of good ways to cook steaks too. So for your protein, that's a pretty obvious one. You don't even really need a marinade, although you could definitely use one. For your carbohydrate, when you are grilling, oftentimes the carbohydrate could come in the form of the bun that you put your burger or your chicken on. It could be some corn on the cob now that we're getting into the summer months. It could be a potato salad or a bean salad or a pasta salad or something that kind of goes with the grill out feel, if you will. So you can really get creative there. And you can also grill fruit. So, if you're using peaches, which are about to be seasonal here in Georgia, that is going to, give you some carbohydrates and is really delicious on the grill. And then for your vegetables, that's another really easy thing to do on the grill. They add so much flavor. So you only really need a little bit of olive oil or another kind of vegetable oil. That's going to be your fat source. And you can grill portobello mushrooms. You can grill summer squash or zucchini. You can grill bell peppers, asparagus, red onion, yellow onion. There's really endless possibilities there. You're going to kind of caramelize that natural sweetness that's in the vegetables, and you can layer those on your sandwich or eat them on the side. So you can easily do your protein, your carbohydrate, your vegetable, and your fat source when you're grilling out. If you have kebabs or skewers, that's also a really fun thing to do. So I would recommend trying that out. The next preparation method that I'll kind of talk about here, and unfortunately I don't have it to show you all, but the crock pot. especially the Instant Pot, which I've heard is just phenomenal and it's just so versatile. But the crock pot or the Instant Pot is a really great way to really put just all the components of a balanced meal in one container. So really minimal cleanup and not a lot of active cooking that you have to do. And it's going to automatically create a really moist, flavorful end product. You can easily put your protein source in there. You can throw in potatoes or rice or beans. You can throw in any kind of vegetable, any kind of butter or oil or marinade for your fat and your flavor, and kind of let it go. And so a few hours later, you'll have your full meal, not much to clean up. And the crock pot is especially good for like chilies and stews. We're kind of moving out of the months now that it's getting so hot where that sounds really appetizing. But remember, cooking at home is a skill that you want to build and develop and practice year round. So, when it starts to get cold again, and you pull that crock pot out, you're going to maybe want to be doing those stews or those soups or those chilies again. But really easy way to get all the components of a balanced meal. And there's endless recipes available too if you do feel like you want a little bit more guidance about what to combine in that crock pot. The next cooking method or sort of kitchen utensil I'll address is the stovetop. And so pretty much everyone with a kitchen has a stove top, and that's kind of allowing us a lot of different ways to prepare the different components of a balanced meal. So on the stovetop, whether you have a gas or an electric, you can easily do a stir fry. So I'm going to show you some sort of pan like this. You might want to get a better one, a nonstick one, so it doesn't end up looking like this. But this is great for vegetables and any kind of protein. You can actually do frozen vegetables too, if that's something you've stocked up on for quarantine. Frozen vegetables, any kind of marinade, soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, tomato sauce, pesto. You can do a curry, a little bit of olive oil. But yeah, your protein and your vegetables can go in your pan. And then for your carbohydrate, this isn't necessarily a one-stop shop. You're going to probably need to do a second pot for your carbohydrate. So something like this to steam potatoes or make rice or quinoa or pasta or really any whole grain is really easy. I mean, it's boiling water, tossing in the grain of the pasta, waiting the appropriate amount of time, and then draining it. It really is, you then you have your carbohydrate to pair with the protein and the vegetables that you did in your pan. So it's not a one-stop shop, but it's a pan and a pot, and you're kind of good to go. And there's just so many ways that you can experiment with different flavors. If you just want to do the protein and the vegetable and kind of skip the step of preparing the carbohydrate, there is no shame in the convenience options when it comes to a quick cooking or a microwavable grain, especially if you are cooking for one and you're not looking to make a big batch. If you're cooking for one and you are looking to make a big batch because you're preparing meals for multiple days of the week, or you're looking to freeze leftovers, which is a great option. But going back to the quick cooking grains, again, there's no shame in convenience, and something I rely on a lot. So I have some examples here. This is a ready rice. It's a whole grain rice, and all you have to do is microwave it. So it's fully cooked already. And this is the whole grain brown rice, but you can find the quinoa version of this. You can find any sorts of long grain, wild rice, any kind of grain that you would like in the quick cook version. And for even more convenience and single serve options, you can even get your microwavable grains in a single serve. So maybe you've prepared your protein and your vegetables on the stove top, and you just kind of want to nuke some rice to go along with it, or nuke some quinoa to go along with it. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And finally, we'll talk about pasta, which is a really easy carbohydrates were to make on the stove using a pot like this, just boiling it in water. Plain pasta, regular old durum wheat, is excellent, especially for runners. The night before a big workout or a big race, there's nothing like pasta. If it's not the night before a big race, then you're going to potentially want to choose the whole grain option or even a bean-based option for more fiber, which is going to have all those health benefits that I keep talking about with your cholesterol and your blood sugar and your digestion. I just don't recommend a high fiber meal the night before an important workout or a big race, just because the fiber can cause some GI distress, and we want to kind of stick to the simpler carbohydrates before a big race. So I mentioned talking about the stove, that we could supplement what we're doing on the stove with the microwave. Not everyone has a microwave, and you do not need one, but if you have one, it is a great way to reheat leftovers. And there's a lot of convenience cooking you can do. So nothing wrong with using that from time to time or every day, which I definitely probably do. But yes, you can use your microwave for your quick cooking grains. You can use your microwave for reheating leftovers. You can use your microwave for instant oatmeal, kind of any number of things. You can even make eggs in the microwave, which you really don't want to dirty up your pan or use your stove. You can do that. Not quite as delicious though. So we've got our grill, we've got our stovetop, we've got our crock pot, we've got our microwave. So 4 kind of basic kitchen essentials that lend themselves to building balanced meals with all the 4 components. And then my favorite, which I really want to teach you all about, is using the oven. So the oven is what we would use for either baking or roasting. Typically we'll say bake when we're talking about dessert items, and we'll use roasting when we're talking about more savory items, but both take place in the oven. And the oven is my favorite tool for creating a fully balanced meal with all the components with really minimal cleanup, and also in a way where you can customize your meal with either your favorite foods, your family's preferences, or whatever items you happen to have on hand. So enter the 1 sheet pan meal. So the 1 sheet pan meal is great for families because you can feed your entire family protein, carb, veggie, fat in 1 sheet pan, or multiple sheet pans if you have a huge family. Or if you are just feeding yourself, you can batch cook using the 1 sheet pan method, and then you'll have multiple balanced meals to enjoy throughout the week, and even freeze some of them if you're looking for more weekday variety, but to have some leftovers. So what you'll need is a sheet pan. This is a well-loved, well-used sheet pan, as you can see. And so this is where you're going to put your protein, your carbohydrate, and your vegetable. The first thing you're going to do is coat it with some kind of olive oil. I usually use a spray olive oil, and I use this to coat my vegetables and my carbs as well, as opposed to kind of free pouring the oil, which you can do. I just find this easier, and you can often end up using less, which, if that's important to you, is a helpful way to do it. So this is just a spray olive oil. This spray the sheet pan, and actually, first we're going to preheat the oven. Should have said that. I usually use 400 for the 1 sheet pan meals. You might see 375, you might see 425. There's no real, again, doesn't require a super specific recipe, but you will have to watch it. So we're gonna preheat the oven. I'm gonna go 400. That's what I'm going to use today. So we've preheated the oven. We've coated our pan. Now I'm going to put the protein on there. And so this is one step that I did before going live, and that is marinating. I'm using skinless chicken, but you can definitely use salmon or steak or pork or really any protein source you want. So this is boneless, skinless chicken breast in a marinade. You can buy a marinade. You actually don't even really need one. If you just kind of want a simple salt and pepper, that's cool too. I will tell you, I don't use a recipe with the marinade. I throw in some vinegar, some mustard, salt and pepper, usually a little bit of something sweet, so either maple syrup or honey. And then dried herbs and spices. I use parsley in this one, dried parsley, because quarantine staple. Cupboard is full of those dried herbs and spices. And then usually some sort of aromatic, so garlic or shallots or chopped onions, but something to add kind of a little kick. If you want to find a recipe for a marinade, there's endless possibilities. But you could also do sort of an Asian style or pesto, or there's so many different ways that you can add flavor to your protein. So you do want to, if you are going to marinate your chicken or any kind of protein that's raw, do it in the fridge. So food safety, right? This looks kind of disgusting actually, but I promise you it tastes pretty good. So these are just our boneless, skinless chicken breasts, and I'm just going to put them on the sheet pan. So this is just the remainder of the marinade. I'm going to stick this in the sink. And very important when you're handling raw meat to always wash your hands and to use separate surfaces and cutting boards and sanitize everything. Because if there's anything in the raw meat, any kind of foodborne or bacteria, I guess, is the appropriate term. If there's bacteria, or bacteria, I guess, is the appropriate term. If there's bacteria in the raw meat, you don't want it to contaminate any kind of fresh or raw produce. So separate everything, wash your hands, very important. Because if not, that's what could potentially lead to foodborne illness. So far, we've got our protein on our pan, our chicken. Now I'm going to add the vegetables. So I've chosen for today asparagus, which is a really delicious vegetable, roasted or grilled. And it is in season in the spring. We're kind of getting into summer months, but it's still a great option. And some yellow onions that I chopped here. So I also love to roast red onions. You could do carrots, squash, zucchini, bell peppers, mushrooms, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. I never met a vegetable I didn't like roasted. Kind of like grilling. It's going to caramelize the natural sugars that are present in the vegetables and kind of bring out that natural sweetness. So if you think you don't like a vegetable because you've only had it raw or boiled or steamed, definitely try it roasted before you give up on it. So now I'm going to put the vegetables on the sheet pan. And ideally, you want to keep them separated. So you might actually want to use 2 sheet pans because if they're too close together, they're going to steam more than roast. I'm going to add some onions. And then finally, we're going to add our carbohydrate. So I'm going to use red potatoes. You can use white potatoes, sweet potatoes, russet potatoes, baby fingerling potatoes, but they're a really great 1 sheet pan carbohydrate source. Chop up a potato here. And I'm just cutting the potatoes here into little rounds here. So we've got all our components of a balanced meal on 1 sheet pan. We've got our vegetables, we've got our protein, we've got our carbohydrate, our potatoes, and I'm just going to coat the vegetables now with a little bit of olive oil. That's going to be the healthy fat that we need in our meal, and it's also going to help them actually cook appropriately and become crispy. And again, I'm just going to use my spray olive oil because that's the easiest option for me, but you can definitely drizzle and then brush your vegetables with just regular olive oil. Or to be more kind of environmentally friendly and you want to have a spray option, you can take your olive oil and then purchase a spray bottle. So just kind of transfer it over. You can find that at really any grocery store, any kind of big box store or cooking store. So spraying our veggies. And then the last thing is going to just be some salt and pepper, kind of optional. Sometimes dietitians and other chefs will recommend not salting until afterwards, tasting it first, making sure you want to add salt. I am kind of a big fan of salt, and I think as runners, especially in the heat and humidity, which I don't know if anyone ran today, but it's hot out there. We are losing a lot of sodium through our sweat, and so a little extra salt in cooking is actually beneficial. So a little bit of pepper and salt. Salt. And now we're just going to put in the oven 20 minutes until it gets browned. Because the chicken in this case needs to reach a safe internal temperature of 165 and the asparagus and the onions are kind of skinny, you might need to remove those and let the chicken cook a little bit longer depending on how thick it is. The chicken that I purchased actually is pretty thin, so it might all kind of cook at the same time, but just something to keep in mind. All right, well, before I went live today, because the nature of being live and cooking, I actually prepared a one sheet pan meal. All the same ingredients that are on the one we're about to pop in the oven, I did yesterday. So you can get a sense of what it looks like once it's cooked. So we've got our onions, we've got our potatoes, we've got our asparagus, we've got 2 little chicken breasts over there in their balsamic marinade. And it's all ready to go. So this will be, because it's just me, this will probably be 2 dinners. But you could see how you could feed a whole family with just one sheet pan with your protein, your carb, your vegetable, your fat, and literally just one pan to clean up, which is a huge bonus. Even though life has changed and it's to some extent slowed down, where most of us are still really busy. And at the end of a long day, putting together a balanced meal, cooking from scratch can feel a little intimidating. So we want to have easy go-to options. And so this is the one sheet pan meal is definitely something I would recommend trying. And it's a great way to incorporate your favorite foods and seasonal vegetables too. So, in the summer, maybe you go with your peppers and your asparagus. In the winter, you go with your Brussels sprouts and your carrots, right? Your sweet potatoes. So you can change up the protein sources. You can do chicken, you can do salmon, you can do beef, you can do pork. So yeah, you can really play around with it and have fun with it. And it's just something to try. I hope some of you are now inspired to dabble in cooking at home if it's not something that you're familiar with. Again, it's great to master that skill now and then really use it throughout the year because of all the benefits. So for anyone who's live right now and has questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. I'm going to put down my one sheet pan meal here. Y'all know I'm a dietitian. I'm not a chef, so bear with me. I do like to cook, but it's definitely not my nutrition knowledge. I think outweighs my cooking knowledge most days. All right, so Marty has a question. Hi, Marty. Love pan chicken thighs over veggies, and what do you think of these new air fryers? Okay, yeah. So he's already doing. Marty and I know each other. He's doing chicken thighs, which are a great protein source. If you are, and I just kind of want to say, if you are cooking a protein with the skin on, like poultry with the skin on, it actually does help keep it moist and prevent it from drying out. The skin is where all the saturated fat is. So if you are concerned about cholesterol levels and heart health, it's not a bad idea to most of the time remove the skin before you actually eat it. The air fryers are great. I don't have one, but I've heard really, really good things. It basically allows you to create really crispy food without having to add a fat source, which then, without having to add oil or butter. So it's saving you a lot of fat and calories that way. But it also then allows you to add a different fat source if you wanted to. So I didn't mention this, but like if you're doing burgers, maybe you'd, save yourself the oil and then you'd add a slice of cheese or you throw some avocado on your burger or on your chicken sandwich. But yeah, I've heard really good things about the air fryers. And we are out of time. So thank you all for joining me here today. Please tune back in next Friday for more nutrition and healthy eating tips. And also just check out all the great resources that are available on the Distance, the website, the Atlanta Track Club YouTube channel, some amazing workouts, and just a lot of insight from other wellness experts. So again, thanks for tuning in. Happy weekend.